Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So self-discipline is a huge struggle for a lot of people, and I think it generally comes down to one thing, and I don't think that thing is laziness. I think the real reason behind a lack of self-discipline is because many of us don't actually want what we say we want. I think that so many of us are trying so hard to live up to someone else's expectations rather than following our own true desires. And when we try to force ourselves to do what society tells us we should do, we end up feeling guilty and ashamed when we can't seem to follow through on those expectations. Self-discipline, I think, becomes much easier when the things we say we want to do align with our personal values and the vision for our lives. And in this video, I want to go over 7 of my favorite methods for building self-discipline in a way that honors your true self instead of subjecting you to that merciless inner drill sergeant that's been trying to whip you into shape your entire life through willpower alone. I'm Rachel Harrison-Sund, and here on this channel, we talk about online business, lifestyle, and hustle-free productivity. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new, welcome back. Now, a question that I've been trying to answer lately after recovering from last year's burnout is, where is that line between making sure my physical and mental needs are being met and then just using self-care as an excuse to avoid doing the work that needs to get done if I want to reach the goals that I say I want to reach? And how do I maintain my self-discipline while rejecting hustle culture? So many people equate self-discipline with sacrifice. You know, they're willing to sacrifice their sleep, their health, their family time. It's kind of become this badge of honor. But in my view, self-discipline needs to be sustainable and it needs to support your true priorities. So that's my first tip. It's to clearly define and create a hierarchy around your priorities. Now, the definition of self-discipline is the ability to pursue what one thinks is right, despite temptations to abandon it. Pursue what one thinks is right. You have to pursue something that you think is right. Otherwise, there's really not going to be any real internal reason for you to do it. So my advice is to write down all of the things you say you want to do and then go down that list and ask yourself if you really want that thing, or if that thing is something that someone else or society is telling you that you should want. Is that thing truly a priority for you? Is what you want coming from you or from societal expectations? And if you hear yourself saying, well, I should do X, Y, or Z, ask yourself, why should I? When you do this exercise, you might find that you don't actually have a real reason why you want that thing. And that's actually great because then you can just scratch it off your list and just simply not worry about it anymore. Now, once you have that list, you can go ahead and rank them in order of priority, which comes in really handy for times when you're conflicted about what to do because you're going to know where each thing falls on your hierarchy of priorities. So just as an example, I've been feeling really guilty lately because I like to start my day at 7 a.m. every morning so that I can get through my morning routine and then be at my desk by 9. But over the last few weeks, my kids have been coming into my room at around 7 to cuddle, and we're kind of just laying there until 7:30. So I haven't been starting my workday until 9:30. So I've been telling myself that I'm lazy and that my self-discipline is slipping, and then I've just been feeling kind of guilty about it for the rest of the day. But then when I thought about my priorities hierarchy, I realized that time with my kids is actually at the top of that list, followed by work. So, that doesn't mean that my work is just no longer important or that I'm gonna just completely blow it off for the day, but I know that there's no way that sometime in the future I'm gonna regret spending that time with them. So I'm willing to do that regardless of it cutting slightly into my workday. Now, the mental shift that happens is that now I feel like my actions are aligned with my priorities rather than feeling like I'm, letting myself down in the discipline department. Spending as much time with my kids as I can right now is a priority over getting an extra half an hour of work in, because before long, they're probably going to be just rolling their eyes at me and slamming doors in my face. So they're definitely going to be not asking for cuddle time. So I want to enjoy these moments for as long as I can. Now, the next technique is to reframe self-discipline as a form of self-love. Now, this shift can be profound if your usual method of trying to get yourself to do something is by berating yourself or just relying on sheer willpower alone. Trying to whip yourself into action and then labeling yourself as lazy when you don't do it creates huge amounts of guilt and shame, and self-loathing, which is the total opposite of self-love. Instead, really try to hold yourself in high regard and treat yourself as if you were your own best friend. So if you find yourself, say, like sitting on the couch when you know that you've determined that starting a business is a priority, just gently remind yourself of the reason you made that a priority, and then give yourself the encouragement you need. So you might say to yourself, you know, I know that you'd rather sit here under a blanket watching Netflix, but I can't let you do that because you've made starting this new business a priority and I really want to see you succeed. You know, if you don't get up now and follow through, you're just going to feel bad about yourself and you're too important for me to let you do that. The idea really is to just reframe self-discipline from something that we're trying to force ourselves to do through willpower into something we do because we love ourselves and hold ourselves in high regard. Now, another point, which maybe is a separate point, but I do think it does kind of tie in with self-love, is to remind yourself how good you're going to feel when you're done, and also consider how you're going to feel if you don't do what needs to be done. You know, sometimes that pain of not doing something is much greater than the pain of actually doing it. This is what's called a competing interest. Now, a great example of this is the first time I was doing a series of live webinars. I was experiencing a lot of anxiety at the time, and I was terrified that I was going to have a panic attack during one of the webinars. Like, I was laying in bed, literally just like sobbing into my pillow, wondering how I was going to do it. But I did do it simply because for me, that pain of giving up out of fear was actually much greater than the fear and the pain of actually having a panic attack on a live webinar. And then after I did it, I ended up having this huge surge in confidence. Now, this next one for me has also been really huge, and that's to focus on just showing up. Now, one of the biggest parts of self-discipline is consistency. Just showing up on, you know, day in and day out, regardless of the progress that you're achieving on any given day. Now, one of my favorite all-time quotes is that success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Most of us are just not prepared for the amount of work that something is actually going to take. You know, we expect to be able to accomplish things really easily, and if we can't, we think it's because there's something wrong with us. But the fact is that we actually have to put in a ton of work before we can reap any of the benefits. Now, just showing up every single day for no matter how long does build focus and concentration over time. And my absolute favorite way to just show up is by using something I call the 5-minute rule. This, for me, is one of the most effective ways of just getting me to do something in the moment, even if I don't want to do it. So when there's something I just don't want to do, whether it's work, exercise, some chore, I give myself permission to do it for just 5 minutes. So most of the time, the reason I don't want to do something is because I'm just imagining it to be a much bigger slog than it's actually going to be. So this mental trick just kind of reduces that slog into this tiny, manageable amount of time and effort. The outcome is one of two things. I either show up for 5 minutes and then stop, and I can carry on with my day feeling good that at least I showed up. Or, and this is what happens like 99% of the time, I start whatever it is, I actually get into it, and then I just keep going until it's done. Either outcome is an outcome that you can feel really good about, and 9 times out of 10, you're gonna keep going with it. Remember, you are looking for progress, not perfection. Are you getting something out of this video so far? If so, please hit the like button. That would really help me out a lot, and subscribe. I would love to see you back here. Okay, next is to ask yourself, what would this look like if it were fun and easy? Now, I like to use this technique when there's something I need to do, but I'm putting it off because I feel like it's just gonna be hard or boring or unpleasant or stressful or whatever. This just helps to create kind of an instant mindset shift and invites in a little bit of curiosity and creativity and playfulness into whatever it is you're doing. For me, I end up feeling less stressed out about it. My attitude becomes much more positive and lighthearted, and I can just kind of give myself permission to enjoy the process a little bit more. So, you know, usually I'll just put on some music or something, and then I can just actually get into and enjoy whatever it is I'm doing. It's also really helpful to tie it to a purpose. So some people embark on adulthood really feeling strongly about whatever their purpose here on earth is, and it just kind of seems easy for them to follow through with that purpose. But I think for most of us, it's really not that easy, and for a lot of us, we don't necessarily feel like we have one true purpose. You know, I think that our purpose can change multiple times times throughout our lives, depending on the season we're in. Also, a person's purpose in any given season doesn't have to be grand and world-changing. Like for me, I think my current purpose is raising my kids to the best of my ability. And then when it comes to my work, my purpose is to share interesting ideas and helping people to reach their goals. Now, if you're a highly sensitive person like me, it's even more important that you try to find real meaning in whatever it is you're trying to do, because it's really hard for us to do anything that we don't think has meaning behind it. Now, making money used to get me super motivated, but now that I feel a bit more financially comfortable, it's just not enough anymore. So now I'm really focusing on creating more meaning in my work, and that's much more powerful when it comes to getting me out of bed in the morning, because I feel like I have purpose and my daily tasks are aligned with that purpose. Next, you want to create flexible, sustainable, and realistic routines and systems. So creating the structure of routines and systems really helps to remove the friction around getting things done. You know, if we're feeling resistance around something, our brains, they're just going to look for any excuse possible not to do it. So if we remove all the barriers beforehand, we're going to be much more likely to have no excuse not to. You know, one example of this is I've heard of people who in the morning, they want to exercise, so they lay out their exercise clothes and shoes the night before so that everything they need is kind of already waiting and ready for them the second they wake up. Routines are huge for me. I've created a work schedule that runs from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and I just show up at my desk during that time. I don't have to waste any mental space figuring out when I'm going to work each day, even though the reality is I can pretty much work whenever I want because I run my own business. But I've created this schedule so I can just wake up and stick to it. There's no thinking, I just get up and do it. I think the main thing is just to create schedules and routines that are realistic and sustainable. So telling yourself that you're suddenly gonna get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym for an hour a day, 5 days a week when you haven't been in the last 3 years, it's not realistic and probably not sustainable. So maybe instead starting for like 15 minutes a day, doing something gentle at home, and then working your way up to like 40 minutes at the gym over time is gonna be more doable. Finally, and this is another mindset shift, is try to incorporate self-discipline into your identity. So start thinking about self-discipline as being a part of who you are. And if you feel doubt around that, just be open to the possibility. Think about who the person is that does the things that you want to do, and then try to show up as that person on a daily basis. So for example, my next big business goal is to break $1 million in revenue. And one of the things my business coach encouraged me to do, just on a mindset level, is to think about how a 7-figure business owner shows up on a daily basis. What do they do? What are their routines? What kinds of things do they tell themselves? This really kind of shone a light on some of my weak spots, and now I feel motivated to make the necessary changes. For example, a 7-figure business owner is probably a lot more on top of their business budget than I've been over the past year. They probably set their promotional calendar months in advance. They've got a plan in place as to what their revenue goals for each revenue stream is and how to make that happen. So these are just a few of the areas that I'm putting a little bit more focus on now, trying to show up as that 7-figure business owner every day until I actually get there. So this kind of thing is called mental contrasting. I'm thinking about where I am now versus where I want to be. And I can see the gap between those two places. And now I'm working on trying to close it. Well, there you have it. I hope these tips have helped you reframe your self-discipline into something you do for yourself out of love rather than guilt or shame. Let me know if you have any other gentle self-discipline tips or tricks that you like to use to get yourself up and doing things. Now, if one of the things you're looking to build your self-discipline for is to start an online business, download my free guide, the 4-Step Online Business Startup Blueprint. This guide gives you a step-by-step framework that takes you all the way from idea right through to launch. That is down in the description below. And if you want some tips on saving time, check out my video, 11 Habits That Save Me 20+ hours a week. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, share it with anyone you think will find it useful, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.